to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you. You. Good morning to you, and many more. Good morning. We are going to jump right in to our new chapter. It is Relationship Wednesday, and we spell Wednesday over here Winsday. I want you to affirm to yourself today, I deserve to be in wholesome, healthy, nourishing, reciprocal relationships. Say it with me. I deserve to be in wholesome, healthy, reciprocal relationships. Everybody deserves to be in wholesome relationships, relationships that nourish them, and relationships that are good for their mental health, as well as their physical health, but especially your mental and your emotional health. So we are reading from Drama Free, a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. And if you've been hanging out with us on Wednesdays, you've been having an opportunity to read along with us. We're going to ask that those of you who are coming down into our live chat and our comment sections to remember our community guidelines. We're going to stay on topic, okay? And if you have any questions, our information is located in our page. So if you want to email us and get in contact with us, feel free to do that. All right. So we've got a lot of people from India who are in our live chats normally on YouTube. I want to say hello to all of my friends from India. I'm actually currently coaching and teaching some students from India right now in my professional life. So welcome to my broadcast. All right. Again, this is a read aloud. I am here in the United States and we are reading from Drama Free, a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. We are on chapter 8, how to manage relationships with people who won't change. Most of us have people in our life that won't change, and it's not necessarily um, it can be a bad thing if the change is things that are leading to dysfunction. I'll say it that way. There are people in our lives that we count on to be the same, right? We count on their loyalty, their faithfulness, their consistency. They're always being able to offer us up good advice when we talk to them, right? So there are people in that regard that don't change, that we find comfort in, that we approach those relationships with a certainty because we know that that person is going to tell us the truth. They are consistent. They tend to always be there when we need help or a shoulder to lean on or just some good counsel. So that kind of change or that kind of consistency is not what the author is talking about today. All right, let's see. Let's do that. Okay, so let's take a look at the kind of change that she is talking about. What happens when people don't want to change and you are in a relationship with that person? Okay, here we go. Okay, let's take a look at this first scenario. When Tiffany was a child, her mother Rita always seemed to be in financial trouble. They were evicted and their utilities were disconnected too many times, causing them to move in with various family members. Rita's mother often took them in and helped out, but she died 10 years ago. Then it fell to Tiffany to take care of her mother. For 7 years, they had been on a roller coaster ride. Rita would briefly move into her own place, but she'd end up back at Tiffany's within a few months because she simply couldn't pay her bills. Rita had a full time job, but she was a poor money manager. As a result, Tiffany believed she'd always have to take care of her mom financially. But she resented it because she was already a single mom with two boys to support. Even when she was in college and working part time, Tiffany sometimes sent Rita money to prevent her from being evicted. As a result of her upbringing, Tiffany made sure she was the opposite of her mother. She pinched pennies, carefully combed over her finances, paid her bills on time, and had a savings account. Bravely and without direction, she decided to be more fiscally responsible because she wanted to create a different outcome for herself and her children. But Tiffany felt it was her obligation to help her mother. At least Rita stuck around and was a fairly decent parent, while Tiffany's father was never present physically and barely financially. Tiffany struggled to accept her mother and frequently lectured her about poor money habits, but Rita couldn't seem to meet her daughter's expectations. Tiffany knew her mom had always been fiscally irresponsible, but she thought it was because Rita didn't want to listen and follow her wise guidance. Tiffany didn't realize her mother was dealing with her own internal barriers. Tiffany just hoped that she could learn to support her mother without feeling so resentful all the time. It's important to recognize that two things can be true at the same time. You can love your family and also have deep wounds due to those relationships. Tiffany needed to embrace the duality of feeling hurt by her mother while also loving her mother. Parents are people too. Parents are people with children. Remember that parents were people before they had children. Parenting doesn't necessarily make the parent more responsible, wise, forgiving, or less angry, or anything else. Being a parent literally means nothing more than a human with a child. Growth involves seeing your parents as people outside of their roles as your parents. Before Rita was Tiffany's mom, she was Rita without a child. Perhaps her spending was less damaging when she was just an individual on her own, without the obligation to take care of someone else. It's possible that the cost of parenting didn't align with Rita's lifestyle choices, and she never shifted her lifestyle choices. Yes, she was responsible for her child, but she couldn't provide for herself and another human being. It makes sense that we expect our parents to rise above who they are in order to care for us, but they are who they are until they take steps to change. For Rita, change is possible, but she must be willing to do it. We humans are complex, and changing who we are can be a difficult process. You can't change people, so don't hold your breath waiting for them to change. Acceptance isn't easy, but it makes life more peaceful. When the solution to the problem is, quote, they need to change, the problem will never go away. You can only control your side of the street. You can't make people mow their lawn, pick up their trash, or do anything else on their side of the street. You only have the authority to do your part in a relationship to coexist with people who won't or can't change. Now, if you don't want to leave, you need the tools to accept the situation as it is. People are not Legos. You can't decide what you want them to look like. Acceptance means allowing them to be who they are, whether you agree with it or not. This doesn't mean that you're giving up. It just means you give in to what already exists and claim your own peace. Fighting against acceptance creates continual chaos in relationships. Acceptance doesn't mean you have to tolerate behavior that impacts you. Instead, you choose how you want to manage what you can't change about others. When I was in the seventh grade in Detroit Public Schools, the writer says, my teacher announced at the beginning of the school year that she wouldn't break up any fights in her class. My initial thought was, everybody's going to fight in this class. But the opposite actually occurred. I remember just one disturbance in her class the whole year. Kids may want to fight, but they expect adults to break it up. When my teacher permitted us to fight, we thought about whether it was the appropriate environment for chaos without intervention. By accepting that kids would inevitably try to fight in middle school, she allowed us to decide to be better through our own doing. Allow people to change without telling them what they need to change. Setting boundaries when you can't change people. You can only change your reaction when people are inevitably themselves. For my teacher, it was, I will not be physically harmed by getting in the way. For Tiffany, healthy boundaries might look like the following: allowing her mother to stay if she contributes by helping with the grandchildren, setting aside a budgeted monthly amount to offer her, inviting her mother to stay long term to end the back and forth, going to therapy to process her resentment against her mother. For Tiffany, healthy boundaries are not forcing her mother to save money, lecturing her mother when she overspends, shaming her mother into changing her behaviors. Newsflash. I know people don't believe this, but we got to give the newsflash anyway. Shaming people doesn't make them better. Instead of changing them in a positive way, research has found that shaming children makes them more aggressive. Whether children or adults, shaming people lowers their self esteem, leading them to engage in more of the behaviors you don't want. In fact, many studies have indicated that fat shaming causes people to gain weight. So, shaming is not an effective tool for anything, yet people still use it to try to get other people to change. In the movie Full Metal Jacket, a soldier in training is body shamed and ridiculed by sergeants and comrades for his perceived lack of intelligence. The shaming leads him to a mental collapse, homicide, and eventually death by suicide. That's certainly not the intended behavior of someone you want to turn into a better soldier. Again, shaming isn't a change agent, it's more of a chaos agent. It's a way to make people feel terrible for simply being who they are. We have to face the reality that sometimes people can change and sometimes they can't. As an outsider, it's hard to determine who can and cannot change, what barriers they might be facing, and the obstacles their internal dialogue may be creating for them. Pushing others to be different deflects from changing what we can control. And hello and good morning to those of you who are coming in, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Do your part. In many cases, people stay in unhealthy relationships to continue to struggle because they don't have the tools to make their relationship healthier. They believe the only way for anything to get better is for the other person to change. Well, you can amend your beliefs about the abilities of others, reorder your expectations, and tackle tough conversations that can potentially change your relationships. But you can't in any way change people, no matter how hard you try. When you see a person change because of someone else, it usually does not last because they're just pretending and they cannot keep that up for very long. It's hard to pretend to want something that others want for you. Every person walking the planet, even your mother, father, sister, and so on, has the right to live in whatever way they want. You have to want the change for yourself. This isn't an easy thing to accept, but it's necessary to stop us from fighting with others because they aren't who we want them to be. Now, two things, I'm going to give you this before we close, and we're going to stop here for today. Um, Two statements that the Spirit of God gave to me to help me with people, the reality of people, their behaviors, and their unwillingness to change. These two things have helped me to stay off of the 6 o'clock news here in the United States. And that's just a way of saying these things have helped me to accept people for who they are, for what they bring to the table or don't bring to the table. The first statement was humans are gonna human. Love them anyway. If you are looking at the behavior of somebody and you're saying, I can't believe that they would do that, just remind yourself that if they're human, they're going to do human things. Humans make mistakes. Humans experiment. Humans also do some incredible things. They do some life-changing things. They do some compassionate things. So just keep in the back of your mind, humans are going to human. Love them anyway. The second thing is people are built to surprise you. That is how we are built. Sometimes we surprise ourselves. Sometimes we surprise our family. Sometimes we surprise our friends. But people are built to surprise you. So if someone in your life is doing something out of the ordinary, unbelievable, impossible, and you're like, I cannot believe they did that, just remember, people are built to surprise you. There's something on the inside of us as human beings that causes a surprise to leap out at us. Again, sometimes we even surprise ourselves. You ever said that to yourself? I don't know why I did that. I don't know how I was able to accomplish that or achieve that. I don't know why I went that direction. Sometimes we surprise even ourselves. So if you can keep those two things in mind, I think that's going to help you in your human interactions, in your human relationships. All right. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time and always for your attention. If you would like to join us in our talk back session, we are on IG, and our IG handle is at Daring Dialogues, all one word. Join us over there for the talk back. Until tomorrow, take care, be well, and most importantly, be light.